although I had it on my notes that I had wanted to do a live stream. So I apologize for not scheduling in advance. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to talk about time blocking today because I need to time block. And I did some research yesterday about best practices and all of that fun stuff because the issue I've been having is that I schedule out these time blocks, right? I have been putting them in gray. Oh, by the way, before I get started with the time blocking, because all of that has to do with the 12-week year and accomplishing my goal and being really specific about how I spend my time. This is me. I'm Jen. This is literally me like 2 minutes ago. I was sitting over there and figuring out these little cards and what I was going to chat about. And this is the shirt I'm wearing. It is our math summer camp math island shirt, what we did last year for when I was homeschooling. We were a little bit behind in their math curriculum, and so we were going to spend some like summertime catching up, and the kids really didn't want to, and so I made t-shirts for it and like a cute little song and everything. um yeah, it was super nerdy, but I had fun with it. And this was me this morning. This is part of the reason why I didn't know when I was going to be able to do this, because right now my husband's going to go get the sailing dinghy and he's going to be back any second. And so you're going to hear him moving around on our boat. This isn't our boat. I just thought it was really pretty. I was out on a walk this morning. I got in all my steps, literally all my steps for the day by 10 o'clock this morning, just walking around because it was just so beautiful. And I got the laundry done too, which was really nice. So anyway, I apologize for not scheduling this in advance, but it goes along what I'm chatting about. And my reasoning for wanting to do this today was that I'm doing the 12-week year. This is the book. This is my fourth 12-week year that I've done. The first one was around building my Etsy shop out. The second one was on growing this YouTube channel. The third one was in losing weight. And this one is focusing in on writing my novel, something I've always wanted to do. And the whole thing about the 12-week year is you finally do what you say you're going to do. You're supposed to get more done in 12 weeks than you do a year. Part of the thing that they do with this is the time blocking. So I want to share with you what the 12-week year talks about, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about what I've done in the past. In the past, I've always come up with my 12-week years. I come up with my tasks first. I call them actions sometimes, so I fill out action cards. But the thing is that tasks is hard for me to say. And because a lot of what I talk about, I speak on video rather than writing it out. So rather than a task card, I will say action cards with the tasks. Again, it's just hard for me to say. But I usually fill out the task cards first, and then I go back and I think, oh, do I have time to do this? And oftentimes I'll get to like 7th or 8th week in the 12-week year, and I'll be like, I don't have time for this. So I'm doing my time blocking first, and then I'm going to go into the tasks because I'll say, okay, I have time for this or not. And on top of that, like the little caveat that I have here is that I just took this writing workshop. It was along with the 12-week year. It's a 12-week year for writers. And he was talking about yesterday in the workshop the idea that willpower is really hard to come by when you're saying, I'm going to show up for something, and just doing it by, the grit of your teeth. You just like holding on and figuring out, I'm going to sit my butt down and get this done. Well, there's got to be an easier way. And I found when I do take that easier, more enjoyable route, that it really does help me out in making sure I show up, even for something that I want to do, like writing. Writing is hard work after all, and editing videos is hard work, and showing up at the gym is hard work. So, there's these little rituals that help you actually go forward and do it and cut or bypass the willpower aspect of it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'm time blocking first, factoring in the idea of trying to make it easier by decreasing the amount of willpower I need to actually do the thing at hand. And then I fill out the task cards. So the 12-week year in time blocking, in this book, he talks about, now it's very corporate. Like, I still think there's so much use that we as homemakers, creatives, moms, whatever you want to call yourself, if you're not in a corporate setting, or maybe you are in a corporate setting and you want to incorporate this still in your personal life, He has the strategic blocks as being 3 hours of really focused work where you are doing things that are like the needle movers. Oh, our neighbor's running his boat. I'm sorry, you guys. So the strategic blocks are those 3 hour really focused pieces. And he says 3 hours, but again, you're working within this like 8 hour day time frame of when you're at a corporate office job. So that's interesting. And then another thing that he talks about is breakout blocks, another interesting aspect of the 12-week year, because again, it's speaking more to like, I don't know, I just envision a sales team using this really effectively, whereas the breakout blocks are times that are 3 hours that you're not doing any work. So you're doing things that are enjoyable and that allow you to relax, so you're not focused completely on work all the time. Okay, that does not necessarily pertain to me, but I like the idea. And then finally, he talks about buffer blocks. And this I always kind of dismissed the last 3 times I've done this, where I think that's silly. I'll just find time here or there to like get things done. Well, you don't find the time. It just becomes a mess. So adding in the buffer blocks, there are hours. I think he suggests you do 2, or there's 2 authors in the 12-week year, suggest 2 buffer blocks. But I think that we could be more creative with that as well. So buffer blocks are things for like that comes up. And also when I took the workshop yesterday, he was referring to using your buffer block as a time to check social media or those things that bring your focus away from the intended work. So that's another interesting aspect to take with that, is using those buffer blocks of scheduled time to do things that are those focus takers. All right. So what I've done in the past, so that's the 12-week year, and what he's saying you need to focus on is those 3 aspects of scheduling out. But I'm a mom, a wife, I take care of the house, I do time and tide plans, I need to keep up with my workout goals. I mean, there's so many different things that I need to take care of. In the past, what I've done is I have scheduled out tasks versus a category when I've done the time blocking. And that was, if you watch any of my past videos, because I tried to figure out where it was that I first started using time blocking, and it was from Sunny Lenarduzzi. I think that's how you say her last name. She had this video that was really popular at the time where you, instead of creating a to-do list, you created a calendar full of tasks that were given times, which I think is a great idea. But for me, I watched the video and my take on it. The reason why I stopped doing it after the experiment after a week is because it removes the to-do list then. So there's no crossing off. There's no satisfaction there of, oh, I'm taking off that item. So what I have been doing over the past year or so is time blocking out categories. So for example, cleaning, video production. When I was doing homeschooling, it was more like the reading, writing, arithmetic pieces in the morning, and then more extracurricular project-based social studies, science, that type of thing in the afternoon. And there were larger categories and not necessarily, lesson 1, chapter 1 of this book that I need to go through specific. So I went from using traditional to-do lists for the tasks with the category just scheduled out, into my index card planner now that I have. And I use that for scheduling in the tasks and the categories like that. One of the things that I did that was really helpful, I've talked about in past videos too, was going through Laura Vanderkam's. You guys will have to tell me too if that sound is too annoying with the boat next to us. Their engine is really loud. I think they have 2 engines on board. And so just let me know and I'll have to redo this later if it's too noisy. So Laura Vanderkam, she has a book called 168 Hours. I did this during the pandemic, actually. And you go through, first of all, read the book, and then you go through and you basically keep track of what it is that you do throughout the day and then see how long things actually take. Sidetrack Home executives talk about this, and it's incorporated into their card system too for home maintenance, where, you've always thought that washing dishes takes forever, but in reality, you can get it done in 15 minutes. So it's just about being realistic with how you're spending your time. And this is something that I think is going to be, well, I don't think, I know that it's really important to be realistic when you're going into time blocking. So figuring out how long things are going to take you is nice. So over the past, what I've done with this, because the 12-week year talks about setting up your model week. So when I'm time blocking, I'm going to set up a model week first, saying this block of time I'm going to do this, and so on. And then as I go through each week, if you're a mom or you're someone that's responsible for other individuals, you'll know that the idea that you're going to stick within a model week is kind of silly to even think about. But at least it gives you a starting point, especially when you're scheduling appointments out in the future. You'll know, hey, my gym time is really important to me. I'm not going to put this doctor's appointment during the time when I'm at the gym, that kind of thing. So the first thing that I did, and where I really got into this idea of the model week, was back when I was homeschooling and we were doing, I know this is kind of controversial, we were doing the Waldorf schooling just for 1 year, our first homeschooling, because it was something I was introduced to in college, and I just like the idea of holistic learning within children's education. So somewhere I read online, I wish I had the link to her website. I might have it in one of the videos that I talked about so I can include. But she suggested creating this spreadsheet for your homeschooling. And this was kind of an idea of the model week, where you're breaking each week down and saying, I'm going to put whatever tasks that I need to get done within the categories that I was going to take care of it. I have the link for the spreadsheet for sure, and I'll include that below, the one that I use that looks like this. When I start off, I create my weekly rhythm, and I have that within my card set too. So each day I look at the card and the day's focus. So for example, on Sunday, it's a day of worship, it's rest. I'm not putting any tasks in there. And so when I create my model week or my time blocking, I'm going to make sure that the rest day, I'm not time blocking anything like laundry or planning. For cleaning day, see, these are all a little different now than what I do, but there's a free day. Sidetracked Home Executives talks a lot about having a day where you're not doing any type of cleaning, administrative. And then I have within that also the victory hour and the one hard thing. So this was back when I did the 5 a.m. club. That's another book. I know I'm throwing around a lot of self-help books, but the 5 a.m. club is kind of hard to get through, but at the same time, it's a great resource, and he talks a lot about just how to have a productive day. So victory hour is part of that. Another idea within the victory hour that's very similar is within the miracle morning, and that is where you do scribe, which is is it scripting, reading? I can't remember what each letter stands for, but that's a whole other idea. So you have like this morning routine that you can do, and then again going into the different time blocks for the day. So that was one way that I set up my model week. The other way that I've done is within the Passion Planner. This was just a template that I set up, and I wrote it down as a template. So I used the Passion Planner. This is from 2022 to 2023, and then I moved everything straight into my card deck. I'd been using the card deck for years before going into moving everything in from my planner into it. So before, I was using this planner and a card deck for home maintenance, and also Trello and Google Calendar, and it was just all too much. If you watch any of my old planning videos, you'll see I'd spend hours putting together a plan, and it was just ridiculous. So anyway, this is how I set it up. Very similar to the spreadsheet idea, where there was a suggestion of what to do, what to eat, and some actions that were best for that day. Below that, I have some things that I wanted to do each day. And this is just taking 1 week of my planner spread to set up like a templated week. And I thought this was pretty helpful as I went through it. And then I also wrote down the 5 a.m. club and what it was that he suggested your amazing day would look like. So that's another idea of how to set that up. What I do now is just use Google Calendar, and that's how I set up my model weeks. And then I usually use a green or a gray color to create those time blocks. Whereas I think now I would do it just all in blue appointments. The blue was usually my appointment that I made or I was responsible to someone else to show up for. Now I think everything that I time block should be in blue and I should actually show up. So that's what I use now, and that's the thing, showing up is hard. That's one of the biggest issues that I've had with time blocking, is that you spend all this time setting up your calendar, and then the idea that you're going to actually show up at the end of it is like, it's I don't know, sometimes it doesn't happen, right? You say, especially for me, when I was focusing on writing and video editing during NaNoWriMo, I put my writing in at 5 a.m. If I didn't go to sleep on time the night before, I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to do my writing. So showing up is really hard, and that's one of my biggest issues with the whole concept of time blocking, especially when it's not like a job. You don't have a boss that's telling you to show up and do your work. You're not making any money from the endeavor, or like, it's uncomfortable if you want to get up and go for a run and you're like, I just want to stay in bed. So the showing up part is super hard. And one of the things that happened yesterday at the writing workshop I took was that he mentioned Cal Newport at some point. And I thought later on in the evening when I was looking at time blocking, I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder what Cal Newport has to say about time blocking. So I looked it up. I just did a quick search on YouTube and it showed up. I'll include the link with this video too, so you can watch it if you'd like. And he said the only decision that you should make is that you are someone who follows your time block schedule. And I thought that was brilliant. It wasn't like, am I going to show up for my writing time block or not? It's more so, am I going to follow the schedule I set out for or not? And then you make that one single decision. And that way it doesn't lead you to decision fatigue, where at the end of the day, you're just trying to figure out when or if you're going to show up to any of these things. You just make that one decision early in the morning. I don't know if you can hear, but my husband's back. He's outside. You guys, thank you for your patience. I might just have to redo this at some point so that it's a better viewing experience for you in the future. Hi. Okay, going back. So the one decision that I'm going to be making then is that no matter what, I'm going to follow the schedule ahead of time, right? And then once I've made that decision, I have to set up my time blocks. So the ones that I've been thinking of so far are around all the different aspects of that I need to focus on, right? That I have cards for. There's fitness, meals, family, and kids. There's the business, editing, and creating products. And then there's things like the artist dates and morning pages, which are also really helpful that I don't want to ignore. And then also scheduling in time for planning, and then writing and research. So those are the main little time blocks that I want to make sure that I go in and I set aside time to do. And I thought one of the fun ways that I've done this in the past is that I've just created like a really easy blank type of space that I could start blocking out time for. So, for example, there's a time that I do breakfast activities. So again, it's a category versus one specific task, which I've done in the past, where I would schedule out, okay, this is the time I'm going to make breakfast. This is the time that I'm going to do laundry, etc. Instead, it's just one category, which is like the breakfast category. So that is a quick review of what I'm doing for tasks. Again, I apologize for the sound, and I might just redo this and show you exactly what it is that I'm doing as far as setting up the time blocks. I hope this was helpful. Thanks, guys.